New Yu-Gi-Oh video. I know this may seem a little bit random, but I am in my shitting out videos arc, kind of, so don't expect too many crazy edits. But I have this one clip I'm envisioning. We'll get to it when we get to it. This is kind of just like a fire topic, you know what I mean? I'm gonna be talking about all of Yugi, pretty much the Pharaoh. We'll maybe talk about little Yugi a little bit. But the Pharaoh's boss monster, obviously, you know, he and Yugi are kind of like one being at a certain point in the show for most of the show. But yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of their boss monsters. I'll use the correct pronouns for their gender, I guess. We're going to be talking about their boss monsters a little bit. I'll give them a rating out of 10, maybe. I'll maybe tell you what I think the best boss monster is at the end. Right now, I'm kind of thinking 2, and we're going to be talking a lot about aesthetics, not just like how powerful they are, I guess. Aesthetics, the card, and then maybe how, you know, it's animated in the show, stuff like that. So yeah, let's just hop right into it, starting off obviously with the most iconic monster in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! And all of Duel Monsters, the Dark Magician. The ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense. It's kind of capped because obviously there are more magician monsters, they're more spellcaster monsters with higher attack and defense. I feel like that flavor text is kind of pointing to, well, maybe at the time the author was thinking that Dark Magician would be the strongest spellcaster for all time, right? But I think what that flavor text is really, you know, kind of pointing to is that Yugi's strategy kind of relies on powering up the Dark Magician with different spell cards, right? Like, he uses magical hats to protect the Dark Magician. He uses, I think this is with Dark Magician Girl, but Magic Cylinder is another example, right? In the anime, it's like they pretty much summon the cylinders or something like that. There's also that book that gives them like 700 attack or something like that. And then there's 1,000 Knives. There's a bunch of different Dark Magician support cards in Yugi's deck. So yeah, obviously Dark Magician is pretty strong. It's obviously extremely iconic. Aesthetically, it looks super cool, obviously, with, I was thinking about this like the other day. The magician, like I keep saying magicians, the spellcasters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are super unique. I think it's just like the sharp art style, the sharp line work of the artists, you know what I mean? But yeah, super unique aesthetic compared to other magicians, I guess, in like anime or just like cartoons or whatever. So yeah, Dark Magician, super drippy. I personally, my favorite Dark Magician card is the one where he has his hand on his head and he has the all purple drip on, obviously. And then one last thing we can talk about is Dark Magician's signature attack, the Dark Magic attack. A lot of aura in that attack name. Really aesthetically cool because it switches to like the negative colors. It switches to the inverse colors when he does the Dark Magic attack. Obviously love Dark Magician. Probably his best boss monster, but I said we were giving it out of 10. I'll give him like a 9 out of 10, right? I'm pulling these numbers out of my ass. Obviously the Dark Magician is super iconic. We could talk about the Dark Magician Girl a little bit. Like I said, I don't think I really count Dark Magician Girl as like a boss monster. It's obviously one of Yugi's signature. I'm just going to say Yugi because it's going to get annoying if I have to say the Pharaoh or Atem or they, them. So yeah, the Dark Magician Girl, in the lore, she's kind of like an apprentice to the Dark Magician. So how can you be a boss if you're an apprentice? It's just kind of my headcanon. But obviously super iconic for Yugi and his deck. You could call it a boss monster, I guess, but personally wouldn't consider it a boss monster. Definitely like a signature card, though. I'm kind of defining his boss monsters. This is like kind of an important thing. Pretty much the way I'm defining it is like it requires a tribute, even though they would just like normal summon it, right? In the old anime, in the OG anime. But a monster that requires a tribute or a high level or a high star monster and, you know, has more than like 2,000 attack or something like that. Like a lot of, like that description fits a lot of the boss monsters in his deck. Even though it's kind of like a wonky definition, but yeah, a monster that would be his boss monster but does not fall in that definition. One of the only caveats to that definition is obviously Exodia. But Exodia has like infinite attack. Exodia is obviously top 5 most iconic monsters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I remember an era when I was a kid where I just wanted to draw Exodia when I wanted to play an Exodia deck. The Forbidden One, fam. The Forbidden One, it's so much aura. So yeah, Exodia, definitely a top tier boss monster in his deck. So something funny I was thinking about just right before this is I'm pretty sure Yugi only was able to draw Exodia because Kaiba was using 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons to attack one monster at a time, using 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons to attack like a beaver warrior at once. He was overkilling all of Yugi's monsters, but I say Exodia is a boss monster even though Yugi only pretty much used it once in that first episode. But I was also thinking, like, in the filler arc, in the virtual world arc, he literally gets to pick his deck. We get to see him pick his deck in our virtual cards, right? And it's not like it's just his card or something like that. It's because we get to see all the different cards at once, basically. They're just like randomly sorted. It's not sorted at all, really. But he does not play Exodia, as far as I know, in the virtual world arc, even though he should, because that would have been a lot of aura. It would have just been cool to see again, obviously, because the physical copy of Exodia was destroyed by Weevil. And speaking about Weevil, we'll talk about Yugi's next boss monster here, the Summoned Skull. So, over the course of the anime, I feel like he definitely uses the Summoned Skull less and less. But in the first, I would say up to like Battle City or something, he was using Summoned Skull quite a bit. He obviously fused it with Red Eyes against, when he was dueling with Joey against Paradox, and Black Skull Dragon has a lot of aura. I don't know if, we would really count Black Skull Dragon as a Yugi boss monster, because that's really tough in both ways, right? Like, it's kind of tough to justify, and it's tough because it's a lot of aura. Black Skull Dragon is one of the cleanest monsters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not gonna lie. I guess at one point Yugi did have Red Eyes Black Dragon in his deck, so he could have theoretically summoned Black Skull Dragon without Joey. But just talking about Summoned Skull itself, when I was a kid, honestly, I was kind of afraid of Summoned Skull, because Summoned Skull is just a demon with it, fam. And Summoned Skull's signature attack is pretty clean as well. He basically summoned lightning from the heavens. I feel like that's how he beat Weevil. Yeah, I feel like he summons, this is so scuffed because I did not do much research for this, but I feel like Summoned Skull summons the lightning and powers himself up or something like that. I feel like that happened at one point. God damn it, this is scuff. So Summoned Skull summons lightning and shit like that. It's really cool in the anime, and it's a pretty mediocre boss monster. It's as strong as the Dark Magician, right? That's the one thing people always say about Summoned Skull. It has the same stats as the Dark Magician, but it technically is one less tribute, right? Because it's level 6. But in the first arc of the anime, in the first arc of Yu-Gi-Oh!, there weren't really tribute summons like that. I feel like tributes were only used for ritual summons. So I think we're no, there's a few more before we get into the ritual monsters. Before we get into the next ones though, Summoned Skull, I feel like, yeah, it's a mediocre one. I would give it a 5 or a 6, right? Or maybe a 7. We'll go through these next few a little bit more quickly because they're not really his boss monsters. They're just powerful monsters. So Curse of Dragon and Guy the Fierce Knight, definitely iconic monsters for Yugi. Curse of Dragon is a demon with it as well. My headcanon, I was just thinking of this right before this, but I feel like when Yugi completed the puzzle, because on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wiki, it says that Yugi, Little Yugi, his only actual card that we would know for the first part of the anime was Black Land Dragon. Is that what it's called? I think it's Black Land Fire Dragon. It's that green dragon. I think that's Cap. I think that Wiki is probably wrong. But obviously he uses his grandfather's deck to compete with Kaiba. And then I'm assuming, I'm headcanoning a little bit here, but I'm assuming he kind of worked on the deck a little bit going into Duelist Kingdom. Curse of Dragon and Guy the Fierce Knight, yeah, like I said, they're definitely iconic to Yugi, but they're not his final push, right? They're not his kill shot. Obviously when he fuses them into Guy the Dragon Champion, that was a pretty cool scene. I feel like he maybe only did that once. Regardless, Guy the Dragon Champion is still a super iconic card. So I would give that a 7 or 8, Guy the Dragon Champion. And then Curse of Dragon and Guy the Fierce Knight, they're a 5 or a 6. God damn it. I really am just shitting these numbers out. You know, we kind of got to get moving here, but let me know what your favorite card is in Yugi's deck. I guess if you want to limit it to monsters, you can, because we're talking about boss monsters. But yeah, I think Curse of Dragon and Gaia the Fierce Knight are, you know, just kind of mediocre boss monsters. It's not like they're that powerful or anything either. So wrapping up Duelist Kingdom here, we already talked about Black Skull Dragon. Let me know if you think that counts. I mean, Yugi never summoned that on his own. That would have been a lot of aura. Yeah, wrapping up Duelist Kingdom with his ritual monsters. So we have Blackluster Soldier, who obviously super iconic, super powerful, uses it multiple times throughout the show. He fuses it with Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon Right to create Dragon Master Knight later down in the anime. But when he first summoned, like, Blackluster Soldier, I loved as a kid. Super clean aesthetic, the yellow and the blue armor, really sharp, and 3000 attack, obviously extremely powerful for that era. But just over the years, just for some reason, like, it just became less exciting for me. This is sounding kind of like sensual, but yeah, Blackluster Soldier, especially because since, you know, people, well, myself included, have a thing for certain Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but yeah, Blackluster Soldier, probably a 7 or 8 out of 10, right? Obviously super powerful, really clean aesthetic. I'll give it like an 8 out of 10. That's pretty solid. But the one I really wanted to talk about, this is what this whole video was inspired from. The Magician of Black Chaos. You can low-key see him right over there. But the Magician of Black Chaos, bruv. When my man's was summoned, he floated down from the heavens. What the fuck? Kid Me had a new experience at that moment in time when I watched that. Pause. Magician of Black Chaos, he actually got some new support. He got an even more drippier form. Yeah, just talking about the aesthetic a little bit. The black and like the magenta outfit, that weird ass hat, that Spellcaster hat. And I think Magician of Black Chaos is kind of like an evolved form, maybe the Dark Magician, or, you know, something like that. Because the Dark Magician has a lot of different forms. And Magician of Black Chaos, I'm like kind of on the fence about that. Like, I'm wondering if it's the same magician, you know what I mean? Because that magician obviously has lore to him. We're not talking about like the old Sage card, because that's not really a boss monster, I don't think. That was Cap. But Magician of Black Chaos, obviously super drippy. When he floated down from the heavens, Kid Me had a new experience that day, let's just put it like that. Yeah, and I'm sure his signature attack was super fire. That's Duelist Kingdom. My personal favorite from Duelist Kingdom is obviously the Magician of Black Chaos. And like, it's just more aura, because I'm pretty sure we only used it like once. So I think he like took the form of the Magician of Black Chaos. I feel like he had some Magician of Black Yugi. I feel like he had some Magician of Black Chaos armor when they went into that arc. I feel like when they were fighting Alexander the Great, or whatever the fuck happened. So Battle City, the Egyptian gods, primarily Slifer, one of Yugi's most iconic cards. Just the size of this man, like, he's literally a god when he gets summoned to the field. He's literally wrapping around the blimp and the stadium when he was fighting Kaiba. Dueling, I said fighting. But I really like Slifer's aesthetic, the Sky Dragon. His abilities are obviously really broken as well. Summon a monster in attack position, I believe. Slifer's second mouth ability activates, and all of you guys know how, I don't know why I'm explaining this, all of you guys know it, but the second mouth ability activates, does 2000 damage to the monster. That monster attack is 0, it gets destroyed basically. But yeah, I love Slifer. Slifer is so iconic. Definitely. The Dark Magician and Slifer are probably Yugi's most iconic boss monsters, let's just put it like that. We can just talk about Albus the Tormentor and the Winged Rider Ra now. I wouldn't really consider them, they definitely are boss monsters in Yugi's deck, let's not get it twisted. We're kind of moving out of chronological order right now, but I really just don't think of Yugi when I think of Albus the Tormentor and the Winged Rider Ra. I think of Kaiba and Merrick, respectively. It obviously was super iconic when Yugi summoned all 3 gods in the movie, and when he also summoned all 3 gods against little Yugi, the Pharaoh summoned all 3 gods. Like, that moment was aura. So much aura. Like, Bro, I wanted to say this with the Dark Magician, but the Pharaoh himself, like, he's kind of a friendship merchant, but he has a lot of aura when he calls the Dark Magician his loyal servant. Fuck, man. Yugi has so much aura. And a sneak peek into the next video I'm working on for Yu-Gi-Oh! I really just love how Kaiba's character developed over the course of the series, and then I wouldn't even say the climax, but we get some really nice moments in the Dark Dimension movie. So look forward to that little Kaiba video upcoming. Really excited to talk about that. The Egyptian gods, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Slifer, if we're just talking about, you know, how iconic they are, right? Slifer is a 10 out of 10 boss monster for Yugi. And then when he summons Obelisk and the Winged Giant Ra, it's just aura for days. Talking about the Magnet Warriors now, I really love Valkyria the Magnet Warrior. The Magna Warrior, I really love Valkyria the Magna Warrior. I like its artwork, I like its aesthetic, and the card. Like in the anime, the animation is a little childish, right, at points. For a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like as a kid's anime, right? Not as crispy as it should be, but I feel like, I don't know if we've seen any like updated animations for like Valkyrion and like any of the new shit, like the Chronicle shit or anything like that. But his aesthetic and the card artwork was just so iconic for me. It's so nostalgic for me. And yeah, bro is obviously extremely powerful. I think he has 3750 attack points or something like that. And Yugi uses fucking Valkyrion quite a bit, even though like in the real world this motherfucker is impossible to summon. Valkyria the Magna Warrior, super nostalgic for me. I would give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I think it's honestly just a bitch to summon, even in the anime. Now we're on to Buster Blader. Another really iconic one for me. I feel like he first used this against strings. I really loved Buster Blader as a kid. Has a really unique aesthetic, really iconic aesthetic to him. I really enjoy when Yugi fuses Buster Blader and Dark Magician, because the Dark Paladin has drip, he has aura, he's fa. So yeah, I really love Dark Paladin. Like, I low-key forgot about my boy, but I would say like my personal favorites are like Magician of Black Chaos, Dark Paladin, and like, I don't know, like Tamias or something. Because Dark Paladin, his actual like card art, he has 2 different ones, right? I don't think he's gotten too many reprints, but yeah, those first 2 Dark Paladin artworks are super iconic for me. The one where he's really skinny, I think is probably my favorite. But yeah, bro was just like Dark Magician on like crack, right? So his aesthetic is like Dark Magician on crack. And keep like fucking playing with my phone and shit. That's so bad for the video audio. This is scuff. But Buster Blader, I think he gains attack points for Dragon in the Graveyard, maybe. It's pretty decent ability, especially, you know, when he's going up against Kaiba every other episode. Not really, but I feel like that's a special card, like just for Kaiba or some shit like that. Also, yeah, I don't know why I'm talking about Buster Blader so much. I would give it like a 7, right? 7 or 8, something like that, because I actually just really like Buster Blader. You know, we already talked about the Egyptian God cards. I feel like that's pretty much all of his boss monsters from Battle City, and he obviously uses old boss monsters from Duelist Kingdom in Battle City. We can talk about the virtual world arc a bit, just because, I mean, it's not like he gets like any new boss monsters, but when he and Joey team up, bro, Dark Paladin, Magician of Black Chaos, but then when he teams up with Joey, and he, first of all, Joey turns Dark Magician into a warrior type monster. Dark Magician Knight is aura. The drip on that is aura. I love when they do that in the anime, whenever they change the type or attribute, because we actually get to see like how, because they actually show how the monster would change if it was that attribute, right? Like if they turn it to like a water attribute, it'll be blue, but so you guys know what I'm saying, right? So Joey turns Dark Magician into the Dark Magician Knight, and I'm pretty sure he gets a sword instead of his staff, and his hat turns into a helmet. So yeah, I absolutely love that. Love the Dark Magician Knight. But then I'm forgetting like the order of operations here. We have Mirage Knight, but then Dark Flare Knight though. Dark Flare, it's so hard because a lot of the names like are so similar, But Dark Flare Knight, brother, this man has so much aura. I love Dark Flare Knight's design. The card artwork, and then, you know, when he's in the anime, it's cool, but the card artwork is super iconic for me. And Mirage Knight, he floats into Mirage Knight, obviously, but Mirage Knight has a lot of aura, too. These are kind of just, like, bonus entries, I guess, right? Because it's not like this video is very scripted, fucking obviously, but it's not like Yugi can make these monsters by himself because he doesn't have the Flame Swordsman, right? He could probably buy a Flame Swordsman. He's the fucking king of games. So yeah, Dark Flare Knight, Mirage Knight, and Dark Magician Knight. So clean in a virtual world arc. Wrapping it up here onto the Legendary Dragons arc. I'm skipping a lot of these. Like, I'm just looking at a list of Yugi's monster cards. There's like the Royal Knights. I wouldn't consider them a boss monster. They are like his signature cards. We have like Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, and Baphomet. Is Chimera a boss monster for Yugi's deck? Like, I guess. I think the next one we talk about is Timaeus. Yeah, it's just called Timaeus. So the Legendary Dragon Timaeus. I loved Timaeus when I was a kid. I don't think it's as iconic because he only used it in that one arc. Little Yugi should be playing Timaeus, I feel. But yeah, Timaeus is super crispy. I love its ability. I love how it can fuse with other monsters. And we should have got to see way more fusions with Timaeus. That was a little bit of a letdown because like the Claw of Hermos had cracked fusions, and Critias. Yeah, that's what it's called, right? It's the Eye of Timaeus, and then the Fang of Critias, and the Claw of Hermos. There we go. I knew there was something more to it than just Timaeus. Fucking AI is fucking horrible. It's probably missing one, but fuck it. Let me know if I missed one. I mean, we're talking like damn near about just all of Eevee's cards at this point. Yeah, I personally love Timaeus. It's really just a green dragon, but it is super iconic still to me. I think I just have a lot of nostalgia for it. I would rate it like an 8 or a 9. It's like the same as the Dark Magician. So I have like two lists going on here in this video. I have my personal favorites, and then I have like what I actually think his most iconic cards are. So what I actually think his most iconic cards are is the Dark Magician, Slifer the Sky Dragon, and Timaeus probably. I personally think that. Exodia obviously as well. So if you're like, you know, an OG Yu-Gi-Oh! Tard, you probably wouldn't say Timaeus. But I personally would say Timaeus because I'm cultured. But then the other list is just my personal favorites. So my personal favorites list is Magician of Black Chaos, Dark Paladin, and then I'm counting Dark Flare Knight and Mirage Knight because he's the king of games and he could easily acquire a Flame Swordsman. Fucking hell. Alright, so the Eye Timaeus, yeah, super iconic card. And then I think we're pretty much wrapping this shit up, brother. Half an hour fucking video on this. When little Yugi, when he actually gets to duel in his own anime, he uses the Silent Swordsman stuff and the Silent Magician cards. I obviously love those cards. I would say his boss monster is Gandor, the Dragon of Destruction, probably. Yeah, guys, that's about it. Let me know what your favorite monster is that we talked about in this video. Let me know if I missed one. I feel like we're definitely missing, like, by my own criteria, like a high-level monster, right? Kind of giving extra importance to the OG ones, even though I was just making fun of OG Yu-Gi-Oh! Tards. Like, Summon Skull and Cursed Dragon, because there's shit like Des Volscaf, or whatever the fuck it's called, that he uses. I'm really talking about ones that, when you think of Yugi, his OG shit is definitely getting a lot of importance here. It's getting more wank, and I just made fun of you guys for being tards, but yeah. I feel like we're definitely, you know, hitting the mark at least by saying his most iconic boss monsters are Dark Magician, Slifer the Sky Dragon, and the Eye of Timaeus if you're not a tard, and Exodia if you are. So guys, let me know what you thought about the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a great day, guys. Thanks again.